A state of emergency declared in the home of Jamaica's tourist capital, our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Thursday, January 18th. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Dawn Paris. Good evening. Prime Minister Andrew Holness has declared a state of emergency in the western parish of St. James, where the tourist capital of Montego Bay is located. At a press conference on Thursday, Holness said he made the recommendation for the state of public emergency to Governor General Sir Patrick Allen, who has since signed a proclamation dated January 18th. This means that extraordinary powers have been given to the security forces and some rights have been suspended. Members of the security forces may also search places without a warrant. The declaration coincides with an increase in violence, including murders and shootings in the parish. St. James ended 2017 with a record 335 murders. That's 66 more than reported in 2016. The Prime Minister says the government had waited this long to declare the state of public emergency because it needed to have appropriate resources to make the initiative a success. He says the administration needed to be assured of public support for the measure before it went ahead with it.
We're all aware and agree crime and violence, in particular murders, have been escalating in the parish of St. James. I have been advised by the security forces in writing that the level of criminal activity experienced, continued, and threatened is of such a nature and so extensive in scale as to endanger public safety. In consideration of this, I wrote to the Governor General recommending the declaration of a state of public emergency for the parish of St. James. The Governor General has signed a proclamation dated and effective 18th of January 2018. The proclamation has been gazetted. A state of public emergency is now in effect for the parish of St. James.
And the National Security Minister Robert Montague also appealed to residents of the parish to cooperate with the security forces in their operations.
My appeal is to the citizens of St. James. Because of the state of emergency, a number of their usual activities will be curtailed. We seek the full cooperation of the good citizens of St. James. These operations that will be carried out by the security forces will be targeted at the criminal elements and their facilitators. We will be relentless as we pursue the criminals and their facilitators. We therefore seek the patience and understanding of all the good citizens of St. James. As you travel, you will encounter roadblocks and operations. We ask that you give the police and the soldiers your full cooperation. Although there will be instances where some activities will be curtailed, as much as possible, we do not intend to stop the good citizens from doing what they are supposed to be doing in their normal scope of things.
And the main opposition People's National Party, the PNP, says it supports government's decision to implement the state of emergency. The party's spokesman on national security, Fitz Jackson, said the parish had reached a near state of anarchy which could not be allowed to persist. He said Jamaicans have been calling for a response from government throughout the last year, when 1,617 Jamaicans were murdered, and already more than 63 persons have been killed since the start of 2017. Still, in Jamaica, at least one group of public sector workers pushing for increased wages is not happy with the outcome of talks with Prime Minister Holness on Wednesday. President of the Nurses Association of Jamaica, Carmen Johnson, says she has nothing hopeful to tell her members.
From this meeting, I still have nothing to say to my members that will appease them, because they too are aware that the country needs to work together in all spheres to ensure that there is a better economy for all. But we have been giving up since 2014, and I will even look at from 2010 when we have been asked to sacrifice, and we have been doing that. But in the long run, we have always been doing about how do we, as the public sector persons or nurses per se, benefit from what we have been giving up even to this point.
But a statement from the office of the Prime Minister said Wednesday's meeting was in response to the calls by various bargaining units and was not meant to replace the formal process of negotiation. Nurses, teachers and police have rejected government's offer of a 6% pay increase over 2 years. Holness says the Ministry of Finance team will move quickly to reach a resolution. Over in Barbados, several government departments were on Thursday affected on the first day of a national shutdown ordered by the National Union of Public Workers to force the government to meet its demands for salary increases for its members. According to reports, some state-run schools were forced to close early due to the unavailability of teachers. The Grantley Adams International Airport remained open, but action is expected to be ramped up on Friday to include workers at air and seaports. In a statement on Wednesday announcing what it called 2 days of protest and resistance, the NUPW said the public servants have taken the brunt of government's draconian cost-cutting measures and can take it no more. But the government warned that the action would further damage the ailing economy. The NUPW's move follows an ultimatum it gave to the Freundel Stewart government that expired on January 15th without any word from the administration. The union wanted a response to its pay demands, which include a 23% pay hike and a $60 million Barbados dollar lump sum payment as a coping subsidy for the workers. We'll be back after this break.
Did you know that a strategy has been developed to help improve the region's education and human resources?
You didn't? Well, the HID strategy, as it is called, will guide CARICOM in how it delivers quality education and training to the people of the region.
The strategy has been crafted by a group of experts called the HRD Commission.
Consultations have been done across the region to get your input.
Do you know that none of us will be left behind?
The HRD strategy is important to all of us, students, parents, and employers. It will prepare the region, especially the youth, for the 21st century economy and society.
The HRD strategy, unlocking Caribbean human potential.
What's the significance of the de-escalation and did it cease the violence?
So the FARC had its origins in the peasants. They actually, initially, before they were the FARC, They were essentially these peasant, independent peasant co-ops in Colombia.
Welcome back. 6 people, including a child, were killed when a small plane crashed in the Bahamas on Wednesday. The twin-engine Piper Aztec was en route from Andros to New Providence around 8 a.m. when it turned back and then disappeared from the radar of air traffic controllers in Nassau. Aviation officials subsequently confirmed the discovery of at least one body floating in waters just east of Andros. So far, the names of 4 victims have been released. They are Darren Clark, the pilot, and 3 passengers, Margaret Adderley, Valentino Cardinal Knowles, and Carter Campbell. A woman and child have not yet been identified. The investigation into the fatal crash continues. We get more in this ZNS Network News report.
Major is the general manager of the Bahamas Air Services Navigation Division that has oversight for air traffic control. Major says the twin-engine plane departed San Andros Airport at about 8:03 Wednesday morning.
The aircraft received a transponder code for identification. The aircraft afterward appears to be returning to San Andres, but no radio contact was established further than that. And attempts to contact the aircraft by or through other aircraft were unsuccessful. The aircraft appeared to be circling at 2,700 feet and descending, and just disappeared off the radar scope. Since that time, we've been employing search and rescue procedures.
Director General for the Bahamas Civil Aviation Authority, Captain Charles Barnaby, says the next steps will be to launch an investigation.
We will dispatch a team from our Safety Oversight Department who will work closely in conjunction with the Air Accident Investigation Department. Once it is confirmed that the aircraft has been found, a team will be dispatched most likely tomorrow morning, first thing tomorrow morning, to conduct their investigations with a view towards establishing exactly what caused the event and what were the contributing factors. The pilot's records, training records, medical records, the aircraft records, maintenance, when last maintenance check was performed, if there were any issues with the aircraft. They will also look to see, as Mr. Major indicated, whether weather was a causal factor.
Barnaby had these words for the families of the passengers involved.
We're doing everything to locate their loved ones.
Trinidad and Tobago on Wednesday said farewell to its 4th president, Professor George Maxwell Richards, a week after he died of a heart attack. And as he was laid to rest, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley urged citizens to take a page out of his book, to aspire to great things and never accept failure.
Aspired under very difficult and trying circumstances.
In the middle of great adversity, Dr. Rowley says Professor Richards always had great hope, refusing at all times to accept failure, whether it was at UWI or in his days at the oil fields. Traits Dr. Rowley believes can inspire a nation, especially its young people.
Many of whom might be encouraged to believe that there is no hope, must be encouraged to use his life, his pathway, and his accomplishments as proof that in Trinidad and Tobago we can make it.
Acting President Christine Kangaloo believes this country's 4th president played a remarkable innings. Like the 4th in a batting lineup, she says George Maxwell Richards was a strong batsman.
It was that, like Brian Lara, his number 4 counterpart on the West Indies cricket team at that time, former President Richards turned out to be one of the finest talents ever seen by the game. Like Brian, he carried the aspirations and the values of a nation on his shoulders for a decade.
According to Her Excellency, his greatest traits lay in his humility and his inability to lose his human touch. UWI Principal Professor Brian Copeland agreed that he was a leader in every sphere of his life. In delivering the sermon, Anglican Bishop Claude Berkeley said his life can be used as an example to bring stability to this country. Always gracious and never pretentious, he says Professor Richards was a man of which this country can be proud.
Meantime, no decision has yet been taken on how the late former president will be honored, but Cabinet is expected to discuss it. This, even as a tribute for the late Prime Minister Patrick Manning, is still pending. CNC3's Akash Samaru reports on what's being suggested as a fitting tribute.
The state honor the man. How will the state honor his legacy? It may be a bit difficult for someone who some say is the perfect balance between academics and this country's laid-back party lifestyle. Well, at least one opposition member hopes he isn't forgotten.
I know in the past when Prime Minister Manning passed away, we heard a lot of banter in the public domain in terms of ways in which he would be paid tribute to, and nothing has materialized.
The opposition leader had a suggestion.
Maybe a chair at the university or a fund, a scholarship fund.
The government says it is still to be discussed.
As you know, we sit in Cabinet tomorrow, and these decisions are taken as a government through the Cabinet and at the request of family very often. So that's a matter that's still in the works, and we expect will no doubt come to public attention soon enough.
In other news, the United States government has moved to prohibit nationals of Haiti and Belize from applying for visas that permit them to temporarily work in the country. The Department of Homeland Security has given notice that people from those two CARICOM member states, along with people from the South Pacific nation of Samoa, are no longer eligible for the H-2A and H-2B visas. The visas allow businesses to bring in workers from other countries. The H-2A visa is for agricultural workers, and the H-2B is for non-agricultural seasonal work in places such as resorts. The Homeland Security Secretary designates which countries' residents are eligible for the visas, and that expires after a year and has to be renewed. In a notice published online, the Department of Homeland Security said Haitians applying for the visas present extremely high rates of refusal, and those who have been granted the visas have demonstrated high levels of fraud and abuse and a high rate of overstaying the terms of their admission. The prohibition comes less than a week after it was reported that U.S. President Donald Trump insulted Haiti in a White House meeting on immigration. The Trump administration also recently ended temporary protected status for about 60,000 Haitians, which was granted after the 2010 earthquake that devastated the French-speaking nation. Ahead in Newsline Sport, the West Indies under-19s captain has one regret from his side's ICC Youth World Cup encounter with South Africa. What is it? We'll tell you when we return.
Did you know that a strategy has been developed to help improve the region's education and human resources?
You didn't? Well, the HID strategy, as it is called, will guide CARICOM in how it delivers quality education and training to the people of the region.
The strategy has been crafted by a group of experts called the HRD Commission.
Consultations have been done across the region to get your input.
Do you know that none of us will be left behind?
The HRD strategy is important to all of us, students, parents, and employers. It will prepare the region, especially the youth, for the 21st century economy and society.
The HRD strategy, unlocking Caribbean human potential.
Team Honda Research West is an all-volunteer outfit.
No one's getting paid to do this, so it's all fully driven by passion and interest.
Proving the Type R a viable racing platform, any work for the guys and gals who style your Ford in TFX. Victory is always a possibility in a long endurance race, but that's not the goal here. No, Team Honda Research West just wants both Civics running when the clock hits 0.
Well, there are a number of things that I do, and it depends to some degree on what the case is. And so I don't follow the same scripted format in talking to a jury. What you're really talking about, Steve, is the voir dire process, where lawyers are given an opportunity to talk to jurors and then later on deselect jurors, if you will.
Continuing with sports now, West Indies under-19s captain Emmanuel Stewart says he regrets the appeal which led to the controversial dismissal of South African opener Jivshan Pillay during Wednesday's ICC Youth World Cup fixture. Following the contest at Bay Oval, which Young Windies lost by 76 runs, Stewart said while his decision was within the laws of cricket, it did not reflect the spirit of the game.
I asked the question and it was given out based on the laws and the rules of the game, but on reflection, it wasn't in the spirit of the game. I think moving forward, I would have rejoined the appeal or would rejoin the appeal, and that's how I see it.
The incident arose in the 17th over of the South Africa innings when the left-handed Pillay inside-edged a drive at fast bowler Jarian Hoyt and then watched cautiously as the ball rolled onto the crease and came to a halt next to the stumps. Law 37.4 regarding returning the ball to a fielder states, either batsman is out obstructing the field if, at any time, while the ball is in play and without the consent of a fielder, he uses his bat or any part of his person, including a hand not holding the bat, to return the ball to any fielder. Stewart's actions drew strong rebuke from current and former international players, and the South African captain disagreed with Stewart's actions.
The law of the game, but I think there's something like spirit of cricket. And I think if I was in the same situation, I don't think I would have gone about it the same way.
Switching sports now, the Jamaica Football Association has found a replacement assistant coach for the senior men's squad preparing for an international friendly against South Korea. Jerome Waith and his superior Theodore Whitmore are at loggerheads with the JFF over salaries. Waith will miss the international friendly at the end of the month, but as we hear in this report from Karen Madden-James of TVJ Sport, the man who is tipped to take up the post remains in the dark.
Last week, Jerome Waith refused to sign a contract at the JFF as the salary stated in the agreement was below what he expected. Waith has since chosen to remain with Arnett Gardens for the CFU Club Championship, which will be held in Trinidad. TVJ Sports sources have revealed that Waith's replacement for the trip to South Korea will be Waterhouse coach Donovan Dookie. We caught up with Dookie at training on Tuesday.
This is the first I'm hearing that, so this is news to me, and I wish it is true. So if your source is good, I would like to know your source. But I've not been contacted by anyone about this. But if it is true, I would definitely welcome that. But my focus is with Waterhouse until I hear otherwise.
And despite Dookie saying he's unaware of any such appointment, he says it's a role he would relish if he's called on. He has already served at the under-17 and under-20 levels.
Would be a huge achievement for me once more. And it would be a very significant moment. A moment that I would definitely relish because I know that there's a contribution that I can make at that point. But until then, I have to keep my fingers crossed.
TVJ Sports has learned that Dookie's appointment could be a one-off one, but there are considerations for him to be named among the youth coaches. We also understand that Waterhouse will have a second call-up as defender Sean Laws is named among the playing party to travel to Asia.
TNT women and Haiti are currently battling it out for a spot in the World Cup in France in what is the first round of action in the CONCACAF qualifiers in Trinidad. The Twin Island Republic is hosting 13 Caribbean nations, including Antigua and Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, Jamaica, St. Lucia, and Bermuda. Head coach Jamal Shabazz says his team is ready for the challenge.
Trinidad and Tobago's ladies have a big test on their hands as they face the best teams in CONCACAF to try and qualify for the Under-20 World Cup in France. TNT play Haiti in their opener on Thursday at the Atobolan Stadium, and coach Jamal Shabazz says his girls are raring to go.
I think we are ready. The girls are excited. I have now a big job to be a calming effect on them because they wish the game was today. And what has been written for us will come to pass. What we have in our hands is the ability to work hard, to get the result that we desire, and to give everything that we can give to bring about success for the team.
Captain Natisha John has faith in her girls going into the clash the kickoff time being 6:30 p.m.
We are quite ecstatic and excited. I mean, tomorrow the score cannot be predicted, but we are well prepared and confident. We want to make everybody proud, and that's about.
At the same time, Coach Shabazz is not taking the Haitians for granted, saying that they have the quality to compete at this level.
So seeing two games of them on tape, we know they're very skillful. They have a couple players who, we can consider outstanding, and they technically, tactically at the same level as us. And over the years, we know that their program have improved.
Also in TNT's group are Canada and Costa Rica.
And finally, FIFA President Gianni Infantino made a surprise stop to Bermuda on Wednesday afternoon. The Italian is in the Caribbean for a FIFA summit in Montego Bay, Jamaica on Thursday. After meeting with the island's premier, Infantino spoke to the media about the potential smaller nations like Bermuda will have in world football. We get more in this ZBM Nightly News report.
FIFA President Gianni Infantino was on the island for just over 12 hours, but in his short time on the island, he paid a visit to the Premier's office at the Cabinet grounds this morning. The most powerful man in football visited a few schools before making his way to the National Sports Center to meet with the media. Infantino talked about how FIFA is addressing the differences facing football globally in regards to sizes.
Well, differences are not that big actually. Of course, if you compare Bermuda with big football nations who have millions or even billions of inhabitants, as is the case in some countries, like China, who is now investing a lot in football as well, but even the historic countries, England, Germany, Italy, Spain, and so on and so forth. Of course, you cannot compare what is done there. But even in Europe, we can see that there are countries which are of a similar size as Bermuda, smaller countries. Iceland, to just give one example, the obvious example, obviously, these last few years, which is a country who has a little bit bigger than Bermuda, 300,000 people, but they qualified for the Euro and they performed quite well in the Euro, and now they qualified as well for the World Cup, kicking out a country like Turkey of 80 million inhabitants and finishing first in a group with Croatia, who is certainly one of the strongest European teams. So when it comes to the performance of the top level, of course there is work to be done, but there are possibilities because it starts from the grassroots and from the youth.
And that's the sport. We'll be right back. Again, the major developments of this day in Jamaica, a state of emergency is declared in the western parish of St. James, where the island's tourist capital, Montego Bay, is located. And in sport, West Indies under-19s captain Emmanuel Stewart says he regrets the appeal which led to the controversial dismissal of South African opener Jivshan Pillay in their ICC Youth World Cup fixture. And that's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sports around the clock, log on to CanadaNews.com. We'll be back here again tomorrow, but from all of us at CMC News, thank you for watching and good night.